debt can be managed if you have enough growth, but we don't have enough growth anywhere in the world. The US is growing the strongest, but only about 2%. Europe is growing around 1%, barely. Japan has actually been in and out of recession multiple times. China has a higher growth rate, but they actually manipulate a lot of their data. A lot of their growth is from investment, which is wasted. So if you discount for that, their growth is a lot lower. So the whole world has too much debt, not enough growth. That's the problem that the financial elites are trying to solve. Well, debt is not automatically a problem, subject to several conditions. If you borrow money and you put it to productive use so that the profit from the investment is more than enough to pay the interest, and if you're growing fast enough to afford the debt, then it's manageable. But that's not the situation in the world today. The problem in the world today is that a lot of debt is being incurred, the money's being wasted, and we don't have enough growth to pay off the debt. So this mountain of debt is getting larger and larger relative to the productive capacity of the economy. So again, if you can afford the debt and put it to good use, that's one thing, but that's not the world today. We're wasting the money and we cannot afford to pay it back. Well, once you're in the situation we described, there are only three ways out. One is growth, we talked about, but we don't have the growth. The other one is outright default, just don't pay it, which would cause a global financial catastrophe. We all know that. But as long as you can print the money, there's no reason to default. The third way out, and the one that the elites prefer, this is the global elite secret plan, is inflation. They have to have inflation. Basically make the currency worthless. So I can say, if I owe you $1 trillion, Simone, here's your $1 trillion, good luck buying a loaf of bread because I printed the money and it's not worth very much. That's the secret plan. The question is, how do you do it? So we said that the elite plan is to have inflation. They have to have inflation, but the question is, how do you get inflation? I call this the problem of Jaggernomics in honor of Mick Jagger, member of the Rolling Stones band. They had a song, "You Can't Always Get What You Want." So the problem today is central banks want inflation, but they can't get it by money printing, forward guidance, other market manipulations. They have not been able to get the inflation they want. So now the global elites are saying, okay, monetary policy will not solve the problem. Monetary policy alone will not give us the inflation we want. So we have to try something else. And the question is, what is the something else? There are a number of plans. One of them is negative interest rates. And the idea is, so normally you put your money in the bank and you earn some interest. The bank pays you money. With negative interest rates, you put your money in the bank and they take your money away. Now this is designed to get you to spend it. The idea is, well, if Simone knows I'm going to take her money away, she'll go spend it rather than sit there and let it be taken away. But this is the typical financial elite plan. They don't understand real world behavior. They don't understand how people actually think. What people do is they say, well, if you're going to have a negative interest rate, you're going to take my money away, I have to save more in order to meet my goals, whether it's buy a house or pay for my children's education. So people actually end up saving more. They also say to themselves, what signal are the central banks sending with negative interest rates? They must be worried about deflation. Deflation means lower prices, so people say, well, I'm not going to spend it, I'll wait till prices drop and then buy something later at a cheaper price. So negative interest rates are designed to encourage spending, but they actually have the opposite effect. They encourage more savings and less spending. Very typical of these elite plans. They dream up these ideas, but they don't work in the real world. The second thing they're thinking about doing is called helicopter money. And this goes back to a speech that Milton Friedman gave decades ago. And he said, well, look, central banks can always cause inflation. All they have to do is print money, push it out of helicopters. People will run around, scoop it up, and take the money and spend it. But the question is, how do they actually do it? What do they mean by helicopter money? What they mean is you're combining fiscal policy and monetary policy. So on the fiscal side, governments will spend the money. See, the problem is people don't want to spend. They're fearful. They want to save more, spend less, de-lever their balance sheets, not take as much risk. But government's very good at spending money. You would run larger deficits, have more government spending. Could be on whatever you want. It doesn't matter as long as you spend the money. It could be infrastructure, could be defense, could be social welfare programs, benefits, medical, etc. Whatever it is. The government spends the money. This means larger deficits. How do you cover the deficits? Government borrowing. How do you issue the debt? The central banks print the money and buy the debt. So basically you have the government and the central bank working together to spend more money and then issue more debt and then print the money to buy the debt. So that's what helicopter money is. This is very likely to be inflationary. There are two other ways that the elites are trying to get inflation, if they have to. One would be through the IMF to issue SDRs, which are special drawing rights. I think in French it's DTS. It's a special drawing right from the IMF. This is money from thin air. This is world money, because the European Central Bank can print euros, the Federal Reserve can print dollars. Well, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, they can print SDRs. They can print their own money, hand it out to their members, and then that money can be spent. So that's another way to do it. And then the fourth way to do it, and this is the most, this is the last resort, not something they want to do, would be to arbitrarily raise the price of gold. So a central bank could come along and say, you know what, as of today, the price of gold is going to be 5,000 euros per ounce. Just declare that. And then you would say, if you think that price is too high, sell us your gold, we'll buy it, we'll print money and buy it. If you think it's too low, come and get it, we'll sell you the gold. And in Europe, you know, Germany and France and Italy and the European Central Bank have a lot of gold. The United States has 8,000 tons of gold. Europe has over 10,000 tons of gold. So if you say, okay, so the price of gold is 5,000 euros, I'm a buyer at 49.95, I'm a seller at 50.50, so you make a market, I'll use actual government gold to back up the market, then gold is 5,000 euros per ounce. Now the point is, nothing happens in isolation. If you have 5,000 euro per ounce gold, it also means the price of oil, the price of copper, wheat, steel, cotton, everything else, wages would go up as well, so it would cause inflation. So you basically have four ways to get inflation: negative interest rates, helicopter money, SDRs, and raising the price of gold. They may go to all four. They may try them one at a time and end up with a higher price of gold. But here's the thing, Simone. All of them mean a higher price of gold. It doesn't matter how you get the inflation. Once the inflation comes, the price of gold is going to go up. That, just to kind of summarize and wrap up everything we've said, there's too much debt, not enough growth. The solution is inflation. But the question, the problem the world is facing, how do you get the inflation? And we've outlined the ways. The first is negative interest rates, which means a war on cash. Second is helicopter money. The third are the special drawing rights, just world money. And of course, the fourth way is to raise the price of gold. That will be the last resort, but those are the four ways. All of them are inflationary. All of them mean a higher price for gold. Well, that's right, Simone. We talked about this global elite plan for world inflation and how they're going to get there. We've gone through that in a lot of detail. But that's just part of an even bigger plan. What they want is world inflation, world money, world taxation, and a world central bank, which will be the IMF. So the IMF will be the central bank of the world issuing money. That'll make dollars and euros much less valuable because the SDR will be the new global currency at that point. Of course, which is highly inflationary, which we talked about. And then finally, who controls the IMF, the central bank of the world? They have an executive committee, but it's really the G20. So I think of the G20, which are the largest developed economies and emerging markets such as Russia and China and Brazil and a few others. The G20 are the board of directors for world control. You know, Simone, it may be too late for small savers to stop this elite plan. They may not be able to do anything about it, but it's not too late for them to protect their own net worth. They can do that. My first recommendation is investing 10% of your investable assets in gold, physical gold. So not gold futures or gold options or other gold paper products, as we call them, but actual physical gold kept in non-bank storage in a safe place. Not 50%, not 100%. You should never go all in, but I recommend 10%. That's enough to preserve wealth if everything else falls apart. For the rest of your portfolio, there are a number of things you can do. I actually recommend some cash. You might not want cash for long, but temporarily it'll reduce volatility and you can use the cash to buy more gold when the time comes. And then also some private investments and in growth areas, technology, natural resources, hard assets. So there is a model portfolio that we recommend, but it starts with 10% gold. Vladimir Putin has a 6,000-member cyber brigade. They work day and night to penetrate Western financial systems in Europe and the United States. They can completely wipe out your digital wealth. It would be gone and you would never know it.